The first dream, age of 16. I've always hated my birthday. Not in the dramatic I'm getting older kind of way. Just an uneasy feeling that creeps in every year around July. Like something's watching me waiting. My mom used to say it was just birthday nerves, but deep down I knew it was something else. It started the night I turned 16. We had just finished a quiet family dinner, mom, dad, and me. They gave me a necklace with a little gold pendant shaped like a heart. Sweet, simple, but I wasn't feeling it. I thanked them anyway, hugged them goodnight, and went up to bed. I don't remember falling asleep. I remember lying on my side, staring at the curtain fluttering slightly, even though the window was closed. I blinked, and then I wasn't in my room anymore. It was raining. Not a storm, just soft, quiet rain falling on a narrow road that stretched into a forest. The trees loomed high on both sides, mist hanging low between their trunks. I was barefoot, standing in the middle of the wet road in my pajamas, but I wasn't cold. I didn't feel anything, actually. Not even scared. Then I saw her. She stood about 10 feet away from me, just beyond the first line of trees. A little girl, maybe 10 or 11. Her long black hair clung to her face, soaked from the rain, and she wore a simple white dress, also dripping wet. She looked familiar, unsettlingly familiar. She was smiling, a soft, knowing smile like she'd been waiting for me. Then she raised her hand palm outward like she was about to wave, but instead of a greeting, she whispered something. Chioi. I froze. That word. It means sister in Vietnamese. And not just sister, but older sister. I hadn't heard anyone call me that in years, not since my cousin moved away. Chioi, come find me, she said a little louder this time, her voice drifting through the rain. I tried to take a step forward, but the moment I moved, everything fell away. The road, the forest, the girl, all gone. I woke up gasping, sitting upright in bed with my heart pounding like I'd just run a marathon. My window was still shut. The curtain wasn't moving, but my room felt cold and my pajamas were damp with sweat. It was just a dream. That's what I told myself. But something in my chest buzzed with unease, like I'd brushed up against something I wasn't supposed to see. The next morning, I said nothing about the dream. I went through the motions, breakfast, school, birthday messages from friends, and tried to shake it off. But the image of the girl stuck with me. Her face, her voice, that word chi. That night I dreamed of her again. This time I was in a garden, not one I recognized. The trees were trimmed into perfect circles and the flowers looked almost too vibrant to be real. She sat on a stone bench under a tree with pink blossoms, swinging her legs like a child. You found me, she said, smiling. No, I said without thinking. I don't know who you are. She tilted her head. But you do. You look just like me. You're just taller. I wanted to deny it, but it was true. The longer I looked at her, the more I realized we had the same face. Same almond-shaped eyes, same rounded cheeks. She was me, a younger version, or not me. Who are you, I asked. Her smile faded just slightly. You forgot already. I woke up again before she could say more. The dreams kept coming. Every night for 7 days straight she appeared. In a different place each time, an old train station, a classroom with dusty windows, a boat floating on black water. Each time she spoke a little more, her voice gaining strength. You left me. You don't remember, but I remember. Why did you get to stay? Questions I couldn't answer. Things that made no sense. By the 5th night, I stopped brushing it off as a weird birthday fluke. I did what any modern teenager would do. I Googled it. Recurring dreams of a twin. Dreaming of a girl who looks like me. Same dream every birthday. Results range from lucid dreaming to ancestral memory to full-on supernatural nonsense. I rolled my eyes but bookmarked a few pages anyway. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I asked my mom about my birth. We were cleaning the kitchen together. She was wiping down the counter. I was rinsing dishes. Hey mom, I said, trying to sound casual. Was I born early? She blinked. No, right on time. Why? No reason, just curious. I waited, then added, Was I alone, like no complications? Her hands froze mid-wipe. just for a second. Then she resumed scrubbing. You had a bit of jaundice, she said lightly. Nothing serious. Why all the questions? Just a school thing, I lied. We're doing a project on birth stories. She nodded, but her movements were slower now, more deliberate. That night I had no dream. It was the first time since my birthday that the girl didn't appear. I should have been relieved, but instead I felt empty. Like I'd missed a phone call I didn't know I'd been waiting for. The following night I dreamed again. Only this time I wasn't in a place, just blackness, a void. She was there though, standing in front of me, her hair dry for once, her dress glowing faintly in the dark. Do you want to remember now? She asked. I think I do. She reached out and touched my forehead with 2 fingers. A sharp pain sliced through my head. I screamed, but no sound came out. Then the memory hit. A hospital room, dim light, a baby crying, another baby silent, doctors rushing, my mother crying, my father shouting, a nurse holding something wrapped in a white cloth and whispering, "We lost the twin." And then blackness again. I woke up sobbing. I didn't go to school the next day. I told my mom I felt sick, which wasn't exactly a lie. I looked like a mess, and my eyes were bloodshot from crying. She brought me tea and patted my head. You're growing so fast, she said quietly. Your birthday always makes me emotional. That's when I asked, did I have a twin? She dropped the teacup. It shattered on the floor. We both stared at the pieces. Her face went pale. What did you say? I swallowed. A twin, did I? She sat down heavily, hands shaking. We didn't want to tell you. It was so long ago. We thought it was better this way. So it's true. She nodded slowly, eyes brimming with tears. You had a sister, a twin sister, but her umbilical cord, it wrapped around her neck. They couldn't save her. I sat frozen. She never even took a breath, Mom whispered. We held her for a moment, named her, and then let her go. What was her name? She hesitated, then Lynn. Lynn and Washadowan. The girl had never told me her name in the dreams, but now hearing it out loud, it felt right. It felt like remembering. That night I stood in front of my mirror, turning the gold heart pendant over in my hand. I opened the tiny clasp for the first time and found a folded scrap of paper inside. A name written in my mother's handwriting. Lynn, our silent light. She was never forgotten, just hidden. The rain began to fall softly outside. I didn't need to sleep to hear her voice this time. Chioi. This time I whispered back, I'm here. The photo no one remembers taking. The morning after my 16th birthday, I finally remembered to check the photos. I hadn't really paid attention to them the night before. Dad had taken a few shots during the cake cutting, and my phone had a couple of selfies from earlier in the day. Nothing out of the ordinary, or so I thought. I was scrolling through my gallery while lying on my bed, sunlight filtering through the curtains. At first it was just the usual stuff, me holding the cake, Mom, smiling, Dad's blurry thumb in the corner of one shot. Then I saw it. The third photo in the set. It looked normal at first glance. I was standing in the center of the living room holding the knife awkwardly over the cake. Mom was clapping. Dad was mid-laugh. The candles were lit, flickering softly. But there was something else, something behind me. In the background just over my shoulder was a girl. She was only partially visible, as if someone had snapped the picture mid-motion and caught a blur. But her face, what little of it was visible, was unmistakable. Long black hair, pale skin, white dress, standing still expressionless behind me. I sat bolt upright. I zoomed in. My fingers trembled as I enlarged the image. The resolution wasn't great, but it was clear enough. She wasn't moving. Her features weren't blurred from motion. They were just faint, faded, like she wasn't quite part of the photo. I rushed downstairs, phone in hand. My mom was in the kitchen, humming softly as she folded laundry on the table. Mom, I said louder than I meant to. Can I show you something? She looked up concerned. What is it, honey? I handed her the phone and pointed. This picture. You remember when Dad took it, right? She squinted at the screen. Yeah, just before we cut the cake. Do you see anything strange? She looked closer, then tilted the phone. What am I supposed to be seeing? Behind me, there's someone there. Her eyes searched the image again, and then she shook her head. I only see the curtains. No there. I tapped the screen, right behind my left shoulder. She frowned. That's just a shadow, sweetie. Maybe from the window. There was no one else in the house. Mom sighed, handing me the phone. It's probably just a trick of the light. But her voice wasn't steady. I could tell. And she didn't meet my eyes as she turned back to folding towels. Later that evening, I asked my dad the same thing. He was more analytical. He zoomed, squinted, adjusted. The brightness muttered something about lens flare, but finally gave a half-hearted shrug. Weird, he said. Looks like a kid, but maybe it's just double exposure. Phones mess up sometimes. Dad, you took the picture. He raised an eyebrow. No, I didn't. I thought your mom did. I stared at him. He stared back. You were holding the phone, I insisted. You said smile right before. He frowned. Pretty sure I didn't. Maybe the timer was on, but I hadn't used the timer. I knew I hadn't. And my mom had been clapping. She didn't have the phone either. So who took the picture? That night I dreamed of her again. She stood in my bedroom this time, right at the foot of my bed. I was watching myself sleep. My own face eyes closed, breath slow and steady, the gold pendant resting against my collarbone. She looked at me, the awake me, not the sleeping version, and smiled. I like that picture, she said softly. It's the first time I've been in one. Why did you show up in it? She tilted her head. You let me in. What do you want from me? Smile faded. I want to be remembered. She turned to the mirror on my wall and pressed her hand against it. The reflection shimmered, and for a moment I saw both of us side by side. Identical. One whole person divided in two. You live, she said, but I wait, always. I stepped forward. Tell me what to do. But she was gone. I woke up with the urge to dig. Not literally, though, that would come later. I went to the attic, rummaged through old photo albums, baby books, anything that might mention her. I found my own birth certificate, hospital wristband, and a yellowing welcome home baby card. Everything was about me. Only me. I flipped through every page, every note. No mention of another baby. No reference to a second name. Then in one old shoebox tucked beneath a pile of school projects, I found it. A photo, Polaroid, blurry, faded from age. A woman in a hospital gown, my mom cradling a bundle in her arms. My dad beside her, smiling nervously. There was something strange about it. Two cribs in the background. One had a name card. Mine. The other was blank. No writing, no decorations, just white bedding. I flipped the photo over. One word scrawled in faint blue ink. Lenny. That night I went to bed holding the photo. I pressed it under my pillow the way you might with a note or a wish. And again she came. But this time she wasn't a child. She was my age. Same height, same face. Wearing the same pajamas I was. It was like looking in a mirror, but there was no glass between us. Do you see me now? She whispered. I do. Then help me stay. I didn't understand what she meant. Stay where? In this world. Her hand reached toward mine but didn't touch. There's a place, a door. You'll know when you see it. Why now? I asked. Why after all this time? She looked at me sadly. Because you're strong enough now, old enough to remember. She leaned closer and her lips brushed my ear. Don't let them bury me again. The next morning I confronted my mom. I need to see her grave. She didn't react at first, just stared at me like I'd spoken in another language. I know she was buried, I pressed. I found the photo, I found her name. Mom's hands clenched into fists. There's nothing there. It was a long time ago. She existed, I said. She's still here. Silence. Then Mom sat down, eyes glassy. They said we didn't have to name her, that it was easier that way. But I did, in my heart. I held her for 1 minute. She was so cold. A tear slipped down her cheek. I asked for a grave, but the hospital handled everything. We never visited. Your father thought it would hurt too much, so we tried to forget, but she didn't. Mom nodded slowly. No, I don't think she did. With some pushing, we found the old records. A burial log, baby girl Nguyen, July 8th, section B3, plot 42. We drove out there together. A small cemetery on the edge of town. Old, forgotten. The headstone was simple, weather-worn, no name. Just the date. I knelt down and whispered, I remember you. And for the briefest second, the wind picked up and the air smelled like jasmine. Her favorite flower, though I hadn't known that yet. That night I dreamed again. Only this time I didn't wake up gasping. She stood beside me at the edge of a mirror-like lake. Moonlight shimmered on the surface. You found me, she said. I nodded. I'll always find you. She smiled. Then I'm not lost. She reached for my hand and this time I didn't flinch. Our fingers touched. She felt real, warm, and then she was gone. No goodbye, just peace. When I woke, the photo was gone from under my pillow. In its place was a pressed jasmine flower. Mom's secret mi koske, bejuashin song sin janchet lutsin, vidayron quencho. I didn't know what scared me more, the fact that she had been real, or the fact that we had all tried so hard to forget her. After our visit to the cemetery, Mom barely spoke. She spent the ride home in silence, her fingers twisting the ends of her scarf. I didn't press her. Something told me that whatever she was holding in, she needed to let it out on her own terms. That evening, she came into my room without knocking. I was sitting on my bed scrolling through the same picture again, the one with the girl in the background, her face so much like mine. I didn't hear the door open until I felt the mattress shift. Mom sat down beside me and took a deep breath. You were never supposed to know, she said softly. I turned to her, unsure what to say. We thought, if we never said her name again, maybe it would hurt less. Maybe it would be like she never happened. But she did. God, she did. I nodded. I know. Mom looked surprised. Do you really? I've seen her, Mom, I whispered. In dreams. But not just dreams. Pictures, voices. I feel her around me. She's not angry, just waiting. Mom's lips trembled and suddenly her composure broke. She covered her face with her hands and began to sob. It was the first time I'd ever seen her cry like that. Not the quiet, sad kind of cry, but the deep, broken kind. Like a wound that had been festering for 16 years had finally torn open. I remember the day so clearly, she said through her tears. You were both so small, so perfect. I didn't know I was having twins until the very end. They said one heartbeat might have been hidden behind the other. I listened frozen as she continued. They delivered you first. You were quiet at first, then you screamed. The nurses smiled. I remember thinking, thank God she's okay. Then they looked worried. The second baby wasn't coming. I remember the panic, the shouting, and then silence. She closed her eyes. She was born without a cry. The cord had wrapped around her neck, too tight, too long. They tried, but she was already gone. I felt a chill ripple through me. I had imagined it, seen fragments in dreams, but hearing it was like stepping into the past, like reliving it through someone else's pain. They asked if we wanted to name her, Mom whispered. I said yes. Your father, he didn't want to. He thought it would make it harder, but I named her Lynn. Why Lynn, I asked. It means soul or spirit in Vietnamese, she said. I wanted her to have peace even if she never got life. I looked down at the gold heart pendant around my neck. You wrote her name on this. I found it. She nodded, eyes red. I wanted you to have a part of her even if you didn't know. Why didn't you tell me? We wanted to protect you. You were so small, and as you grew, it just didn't come up. And when you were 5, you started talking to yourself in mirrors, drawing strange things. We thought you had an imaginary friend. I stared at her. That was her. Mom shrugged helplessly. I don't know, but you'd say her name in your sleep sometimes. We started to worry. Your father thought it was better not to talk about it, thought it would go away. It didn't. No, she said, it didn't. We sat in silence for a long time. The air was heavy but not painful, just honest. Then she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out something small and wrapped in tissue paper. I kept this, she said, placing it in my hand. I unfolded the tissue slowly. Inside was a hospital bracelet. The name tag was faded, but I could still make it out. Baby girl Nguyen, Lin. I traced the letters with my finger. I think she's still here, I said quietly. Mom didn't respond. She didn't have to. That night I didn't dream. Or maybe I did, but she wasn't there. It was like she knew the truth had finally been spoken, And for the first time in years, she didn't have to knock on my subconscious anymore. But her absence left a different kind of ache. The next morning, I woke to find something new taped to my mirror. A paper crane. I hadn't made it. I didn't know how. But it was delicate, folded precisely, and made from an old page of a children's storybook. The ink was faded, but I could still read part of the page. Once upon a time, there were two sisters who shared the same heart. I stared at it for a long time, the image swimming before my eyes. She was trying to talk to me in ways beyond dreams now. Subtle ways, gentle, almost childlike. But what did she want? I decided I had to go deeper. If she had been reaching out to me for years and I was only now starting to understand, it meant she wasn't ready to let go. And I wasn't either. I started by searching through old journals, school notebooks, anything that might hold a clue. I flipped back through years of forgotten scribbles and doodles until I found something strange. It was a drawing I'd made in second grade. Two girls holding hands under a tree. One was labeled me, the other was labeled not me. Underneath, I'd written in messy handwriting, "She lives in the mirror." I felt a shiver roll down my spine. In the same notebook on a separate page was a list of rules. I had no memory of writing them. 1, don't look in the mirror at night. 2, if she calls, don't answer out loud. 3, never let her touch your left hand. 4, she likes jasmine flowers. 5, if she cries, close your eyes. The handwriting was mine, but I didn't remember writing a word of it. Why had I written rules? Had she visited me when I was younger, more open? Had I known instinctively what to do? And now that I was older, stronger like she said was, I finally ready to break them. That night, I lit a single candle and stood in front of my mirror. The room was silent. My reflection flickered slightly in the candlelight. I held the paper crane in one hand and the pendant in the other. "Lynn," I said softly, "I remember you." No reply. "I want to understand. I want to help." The candle flickered violently. The temperature in the room dropped. And then I saw her, not beside me, in the mirror. She stood behind my reflection, not moving, not smiling. Her face was calm, eyes deep dark and ancient. Not scary, just infinite. "Why are you still here?" I asked. Her lips moved, but no sound came. I leaned forward, breath fogging the glass. "Tell me." She raised her left hand. Something dark was wrapped around her wrist. A cordover, thick, black, twisted. She pointed to it, then to me. Then she disappeared. I gasped and stumbled back. The candle blew out, and the room was plunged into silence once more. The next morning, I woke with something clenched in my fist. It was a thread, thick and black, frayed at the end, and wrapped tightly around my left wrist like a warning. The whisper from the mirror. Every night at midnight, when she stands before the mirror, she hears a lullaby, though no one is around. It started 2 nights after the candle went out. I had gone to bed early, my mind a whirl of questions, fear, and something else I couldn't name. I kept thinking about the black thread around my wrist. I tried to throw it away, flush it, even burn it. But each time I woke up the next morning, it was back, looped tightly around my left wrist no matter what I did. And now something was singing to me. The first time I heard it, I thought it was a dream. I woke in the middle of the night, a soft melody curling through the room. It was barely audible, just a few notes carried on a breeze that shouldn't have existed. My window was closed. The fan was off, but still the sound floated. I lay in bed still listening. A lullaby. Not the kind you'd find in a music box. It was older, melancholic, haunting. I didn't understand the words, but something in the tone made my skin prickle. Then I realized the direction it came from. The mirror. I turned my head slightly. The mirror across the room was dark in the moonlight, reflecting only shadows. But the lullaby grew louder as I stared. I sat up slowly. The singing stopped. My heart hammered in my chest. "Lynn," I whispered. "Nothing. Just silence and the soft tick of the clock beside me. 12:03 a.m. The next night, it happened again. Same time, same melody. I stood and walked slowly toward the mirror, bare feet cold against the wooden floor. The moment I stood directly in front of it, the voice stopped again. But this time, something was different. I could see breath, not mine, a faint cloud on the glass, as if someone was breathing from the other side. I reached out, fingers trembling, and touched the cold surface. My breath fogged it, mingling with the fading outline already there. And then right before it vanished completely, words appeared. Scrawled in fog, "Come find the cradle." I stepped back so fast I almost tripped. The mirror cleared. The room went silent. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning I told my best friend Hannah everything. It was a risk. I hadn't told anyone outside my family about Lynn, but I was starting to unravel. I needed someone to talk to, someone who might help me make sense of the impossible. Hannah was quiet as I finished. She sat at our usual lunch bench, arms folded, eyes serious. "Okay," she said. "Let me get this straight. You've been dreaming about a twin sister you never knew existed. She's appeared in photos, left objects, written messages on your mirror, and now she's singing to you." When you say it like that, I sound crazy. "No," Hannah said. "You sound haunted." I stared at her. She shrugged. "Hey, I watch ghost documentaries. This isn't that far off." She said something about a cradle. Hannah leaned forward. "Have you asked your mom about it?" I shook my head. She already gave me everything she had. The bracelet, the name, the memory. I don't want to push her more. Then maybe it's not something she knew. That thought hadn't occurred to me. If it wasn't Mom who could help me, maybe it was something hidden, something waiting to be found. "I need to go back to the attic," I said. Hannah nodded. "I'm coming with you." That evening, with the sun barely setting, we climbed the narrow stairs into the attic. The air was stale, filled with dust motes swirling in the golden light. The same old boxes sat in corners, each labeled in my dad's neat handwriting, "Iximas baby stuff old books." We started with the boxes marked baby, diapers, tiny clothes, shoes that fit in the palm of my hand. Then baby books, mine covered in scribbles and glitter stickers. But one box didn't have a label. It was small, wooden, locked with a rusted clasp. "I've never seen this before," I said. I tugged at the latch. It didn't budge. "Do you have the key?" Hannah asked. "No, but I have a bobby pin." It took 5 minutes and 2 bent pins, but the lock finally popped. Inside was a small folded quilt, faded pink and white with hand-sewn animals along the border. A baby's name was stitched across the middle. Lee S. Beneath the quilt was a photo. 2 cribs side by side. One had a mobile hanging above it, wooden stars and a single crescent moon. The other had nothing, no decoration, just a tiny stuffed rabbit sitting inside. "The cradle," I whispered. "Do you recognize it?" Hannah asked. I shook my head. "No, but it must have been stored somewhere. Maybe given away, or..." My voice trailed off. Hannah finished my sentence. "Or buried." That night, I stood in front of the mirror again. "Lynn," I said softly, "I found the quilt. I found the photo." The glass fogged. This time her voice answered. Soft, close, as if she stood just behind me. "Find the cradle." "Where is it?" I came in, but the mirror cleared. I was alone again. Over the next 2 days, I searched. I asked my dad if he remembered what happened to our old baby furniture. He scratched his head. "We donated most of it. Some stuff might still be in storage." "Why?" "Just curious." He frowned. "Wait. There was something we didn't give away. A crib. Your mom didn't want it thrown out, but we couldn't keep it inside. It was cracked on one leg." "Where is it now?" He pointed toward the backyard. "Buried under the old shed, maybe. We used it to prop up the floorboards before we poured concrete." My heart skipped a beat. "Under the shed. Dad shrugged. "Probably rotted by now." That night, just after midnight, I grabbed a flashlight and slipped outside. The grass was wet with dew. The air smelled like earth and jasmine. The old shed stood crooked at the back of the yard. One corner sagged slightly, the one Dad said had been supported by the broken crib. I crouched down and pushed aside weeds, dirt, stones. My fingers scraped wood. Old, warped, barely intact. I pulled. A piece of the crib came loose in my hand. A wooden slat etched with tiny stars. As I held it, the lullaby began again. But this time it wasn't just in my head. It was coming from inside the shed. I stood slowly, heart racing. The door creaked open. Inside was darkness, dust, tools, boxes. And in the center of the floor, a cradle, whole untouched, not broken at all. I stepped inside. The lullaby grew louder, echoing softly off the walls. The cradle rocked on its own. A single white rabbit lay inside. "I found it," I whispered. A soft voice answered behind me. "Thank you." I turned. She was there, standing in the doorway, barefoot, pale, wearing the same white dress from my dreams. Her eyes were sad but peaceful. "I can rest now," she said. I opened my mouth, but no words came. She looked at the cradle, then at me. And then she smiled, a real smile, and vanished. When I stepped outside again, the stars had faded. The rabbit lay in my hands. The lullaby was gone, but the mirror never sang again. "Please remember my name." The dream repeats. The twin girl keeps saying her name, but the sound always gets stuck halfway. The lullaby stopped. The cradle was found, and yet she still came back. I thought maybe it was over after the night at the shed, that she had found peace, that uncovering the truth had given her enough. But just 3 nights later, she returned standing at the foot of my bed, like she had before, her presence so familiar now that I didn't even flinch. But this time something was different. The dream didn't take place in a forest or a lake or even my bedroom. It was a space with no walls, just mist, soft and white, stretching in every direction, like we were suspended in a cloud. There was no ground beneath my feet, but I wasn't falling. I was simply there, and so was she. She stood a few feet away, her hair longer now, as if time had passed in her world too. She looked older, closer to my age. Her eyes were filled with longing. She opened her mouth. She began and then stopped. She tried again. "I'm Linwa Shibra Shibwa." The word cut off like something had choked it halfway through her throat. Her mouth kept moving, but no sound came out. Her expression shifted from hopeful to strained, then frightened. "I'm a breath." She clutched her throat suddenly, as if something gripped her from the inside. "Lynn," I whispered, stepping forward. She shook her head violently. "No," she rasped. "That's half. Only half." I froze. Half. I'd called her Lynn ever since Mom had told me that was the name she gave her. But now she was telling me that wasn't the full truth. "What's your full name?" I asked. "Tell me." She raised her hand. Slowly, shakily, she pointed to her chest. Then to me. Then she whispered again, barely audible, "Finish it." And the dream ended. I sat up in bed, gasping. My room was completely silent, the air still and heavy, as if someone had just left it moments before. I pressed my fingers to my wrist, half expecting to find the black thread again. But it wasn't there. Instead, lying on my pillow beside me was the paper crane she had once left on the mirror. Only this time, something was written on it. "What is a soul without a name?" That question echoed in my head all day. At school, I barely heard anything the teacher said. I kept replaying the dream in my mind, her struggle to say the name, the way it caught in her throat like it wasn't allowed to come out. Only half a name, half a life, half a memory. Mom had said they named her Lynn in the hospital, but maybe that wasn't her full name. Maybe that was the name on the death certificate or the hospital tag. Maybe they never finished giving it to her. Maybe no one ever spoke her full name aloud. And maybe that was what was keeping her trapped. After school, I went straight to the attic again, pulling down every old file paper and letter I could find. There were old birth announcements, but only mine, a few photos, a faded envelope with dried flower petals, a hospital discharge form, and then at the very bottom of a forgotten baby memory book, I found something. A torn page. It looked like it had once held 2 names at the top, written in calligraphy. One was mine, my aunt, my full name. The other was smudged, almost unreadable. I tilted it toward the light. Some of the ink had bled, but one thing stood out clearly. Likakafu, Wikwanininanuan. There had been a second name. First name Lynn, middle name something I couldn't read, last name Ann, like mine. I took the page to my mom. She stared at it for a long time, then she closed her eyes. "I forgot," she whispered. "I forgot we even wrote that down. Do you remember what it said?" She hesitated, then slowly her name was going to be Lynn Ha Ann. "Ha! Summer peace," she added. "We chose it the week before the birth. It was written in a journal that I must have thrown away when she died. I didn't want to see it anymore. But it was her name. Yes, I felt my throat tighten. She's been trying to say it, I said. Every night. But it always gets stuck. Because no one ever said the full name out loud. Not until now. Mom put a hand over her mouth. She's been waiting 16 years just to be called by her name. I nodded. I think it's the last thing she needs. That night I waited until the house was asleep. Then I stood in front of the mirror. This time I didn't bring a candle or a paper crane or the pendant. Only my voice. I know your name, I said to the reflection. I know it now. At first nothing happened. The glass stayed smooth and blank. My reflection blinked back at me, sleepy-eyed, pale in the moonlight. Then I saw it mist rising behind the reflection, her silhouette forming. Not a child now, a girl my age, my height, my face, only gentler. And she waited. Lynn, I said. She nodded once. A small smile. And with that, her eyes filled with tears. She whispered this time with no choking, no pain. Thank you for remembering me. And she stepped forward. The glass rippled like water. Her hand reached out, not to grab, not to pull, but simply to touch. I raised mine to meet it, our fingertips aligned on either side of the mirror. And then the glass glowed faintly. Not white, not blue, but gold. Warm, forgiving. Her smile widened. And for the first time she spoke clearly. I'm ready. I woke the next morning with sunlight pouring through the window. There was no heaviness in the air, no cold spot at the foot of my bed, no lingering sadness, just stillness and peace. On my nightstand was a folded slip of paper, the same handwriting as before, but this time only 3 words. I am whole. I told Mom everything, every detail. She cried, hugged me tighter than she ever had before, and together we went back to the cemetery. This time we brought a new plaque, one with her full name carved clearly and beautifully. Lin Ha-an, our silent light. We placed jasmine flowers at the base, lit a candle, and said her name, out loud, together. She hasn't come to me in dreams since that night. But sometimes when I pass the mirror in the hallway just before bed, I see a flicker, a soft shimmer of gold. Not haunting, just watching, just remembering. And I smile, because now I know her name. And that means she's no longer forgotten. The childhood game I never learned. She unknowingly draws a strange symbol. It turns out to be a traditional paper folding game she's never learned before. After we placed Lin Hyan's full name at her resting place, I thought that would be the end. No more mirror whispers, no more paper cranes, no more lullabies in the night. But something about silence can feel just as unsettling. For a while, life returned to normal, or at least what normal now meant. I went to school, I studied, I spent weekends with Hannah again. My mom smiled more, though her eyes always carried a weight I now understood. Still, there were moments, brief flashes, a sudden cold spot in the hallway, a paper folding itself when no one touched it. Nothing threatening, just little signs that maybe Lynn wasn't completely gone. Maybe she had never intended to leave entirely. One Thursday afternoon, while waiting for the final bell at school, I found myself absent-mindedly doodling in the margins of my history notes. At first it was just a swirl, then the swirl became a box, then the box sprouted wings. Without thinking, I drew a strange loop beneath it, a kind of knot tight and precise. By the time the bell rang, I had filled half the page. Whoa, Hannah said, peeking over my shoulder. That's cool. What is it? I blinked. I have no idea. I didn't remember drawing it. My hand had moved on its own like muscle memory, except I'd never seen this shape before, much less drawn it. Looks like some kind of symbol, Hannah said, tracing the loops with her finger. Like a logo, or something old. When I got home, I tore the page out and set it on my desk. Something about the shape kept pulling me in. The more I looked at it, the more I felt like it was trying to speak. That night I dreamed again. Not of Lynn, not directly. I was standing in a room I didn't recognize. Wooden floors, shoji doors, paper lanterns swaying from invisible wind. In the center of the room sat a girl, back turned to me, folding paper. Over and over and over. She was humming the same lullaby. Only this time it had no sadness, just rhythm. I stepped closer. Her fingers moved with precision, folding sharp corners, pressing creases. A pile of cranes surrounded her, but she wasn't making cranes. She was folding something else. I looked down at the paper in her hands and froze. It was the same pattern I'd drawn earlier. The same strange knot repeated in layers, forming a box. A box that moved. I blinked. It wasn't just paper. It was alive. The folds began to pulse slightly, like breathing. Suddenly, the girl turned around. It was me, but not me. Her eyes were darker, her hair longer, her fingers ink-stained. She held out the paper and whispered, "Play." Then everything turned black. I sat up in bed, my breath catching in my throat. My room was quiet. Moonlight filtered in through the blinds. The paper I had drawn earlier was gone. In its place, sitting perfectly centered on my desk, was a folded shape I had never made. A cube constructed from one seamless sheet of paper. And on each side, the symbol from my drawing pressed perfectly into the folds. I reached for it slowly. As soon as my fingertips touched the surface, something shifted. The cube opened. Not like a paper toy, not like something handmade. It unfolded itself section by section, like blooming petals revealing inside a single line of faded ink. "You already know the rules." My heart pounded. I didn't. I had no idea what the rules were. I had never seen this before. Never learned this as a child. But part of me, deep instinctive, did know. Not from memory, from blood. From something Lynn had left behind. The next day I skipped lunch and went straight to the school library. Mrs. Kai, the librarian, raised an eyebrow. "History project again." "Kind of," I said. "Have you ever heard of old Vietnamese paper folding games?" Her expression shifted slightly. "Origami." "Not just origami," I explained. "Folk games, symbolic folds. Things people used to teach kids to pass down stories." She gave me a long look. Then she disappeared into the back shelves and returned with a dusty red book, the title faded on the spine. "Try this," she said, handing it to me. "It's out of print, but you might find something." I opened it carefully, flipping past illustrations of boats and flowers, then houses and dragons. Then I found it. A fold pattern labeled "Hop Lin the Spirit Box," accompanied by a faded image. My breath caught. It was the exact same shape I had drawn, and folded. According to the book, Hop Lin was a protective game once used by children to trap bad spirits, or sometimes to communicate with loved ones who had passed. It was never played alone. Always between two siblings, usually twins. I stared at the instructions. Each fold represented a promise. Fold 1 to remember, fold 2 to protect, fold 3 to call, fold 4 to release. But most people had forgotten how to fold it entirely. The page ended with a chilling note. "Only those with a true soul bond may complete the game." That night, I brought the cube to the mirror. "I think this was yours," I whispered, "or ours." My reflection didn't change. But when I set the cube on the dresser, it unfolded again, without touch, revealing a second message hidden beneath the first. "Your turn." I blinked. My turn to what? Then, without warning, my hand moved. Not under my control, but not against my will either. Like a memory buried in muscle and blood, I reached for a blank sheet of paper and began folding. First the corners, then a twist, then a bend that felt unnatural but right. Within moments, I had created a second cube, identical to the first. I stared at it, and then, almost against my will, whispered, "Fold 1 to remember." A sharp click echoed through the room, not from the paper, from the mirror. A thin crack had appeared in the glass, starting at the top corner, like something pressed from the inside. I stood frozen, the paper cube still in my hands. "Fold 2, I said aloud, "to protect." Another fold, another click. The crack deepened, spiderwebbing toward the center. "Fold 3, to calm." The cube pulsed in my hands, warm for a moment, then cold. The mirror began to fog. I hesitated. Then "Fold 4, to release." The mirror exploded. Not violently, not with shattering glass, but with light. A sudden burst of white and gold, flooding the room like sunrise. And then she was there. Not behind the mirror, not in the mirror, but in my room, standing just inches from me. Lynn, whole but present. Her feet touched the floor. Her reflection showed in the mirror, cracked but not broken. She was real. I didn't know whether to scream, run, or cry. But she just looked at me and said, "You remembered the game." I didn't know I knew it. "You always did. We made it. In the space between lives." She stepped closer. "Now we can finish." She held out her hand. I hesitated, then reached out and placed my folded cube into hers. The two boxes pulsed, then fused. The moment they touched, they melted into each other, folding and twisting into a new shape. Not a box, but a circle. A ring of folded paper that glowed gold. It floated in the air between us. Lynn smiled. "You finished it." The ring sank slowly to the floor and unfolded into a perfect lotus blossom. And Lynn, she began to fade. No, I reached out, grabbing her wrist. "Don't go." "I'm not going," she whispered. "Not far, just forward." The room filled with warmth, and then her voice echoed one last time. "You'll always know where to find me." The lotus blossom began to turn slowly, and where it turned, it left light, then silence. The next morning, I found the paper lotus beside my bed. It hadn't faded, it hadn't crumbled. It glowed faintly, and when I touched it, I felt warmth. Lynn was gone, but not lost, not forgotten. She had taught me a game I never learned. A game we had made together before I was ever born. And now I could finally play it. Alone, and never alone again. The call from under the bed. At midnight, the phone rings, no number. A little girl's voice whispers, "Sister, I'm cold." For a while, I thought the story had ended. After the mirror cracked and the lotus appeared, everything became quiet again. Peaceful, no more dreams, no more whispers, no more mysterious messages or floating paper shapes. Lynn had said goodbye, and I believed it was for good. I kept the paper lotus beside my bed. Sometimes at night I would reach out and touch it. It was always warm, not like a nightlight, not like a heater, but like skin, like someone holding your hand through fabric and time. It comforted me even though she was gone. But I should have known. Things like this don't end so easily. Not when something has been left behind. It started again on the 7th night. Midnight. I had just drifted into sleep when my phone rang. The sound tore through the silence like a scream. I sat up quickly, heart pounding. Who would call at this hour? I reached for my phone, and that's when I noticed no number. No caller ID, no contact, just unknown. I hesitated. My thumb hovered over the green answer button. Then, despite the chill creeping up my spine, I answered. "Hello." At first, there was only static. Then, a voice, faint, fragile. A little girl's voice. "Shioi." "Sister, Mlang Lam. I'm so cold." My blood froze. "Lynn," I whispered, sitting up straighter. "Is that you?" But the line went dead. No click, no goodbye, just silence. I stared at the screen. 12:01 a.m. The call lasted 9 seconds. Was it real or a dream? The next night, it happened again. Same time, same unknown number, same voice. "Shioi, Amo Doi Jai." "Sister, I'm under here." "Under where?" 120 Doi Gamjong, under the bed. I dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor, the screen still glowing. I couldn't move. I didn't want to look. Every horror movie, every ghost story, every childhood fear suddenly rushed back into me all at once. I forced myself to breathe. Then slowly I leaned over the edge of the bed. There was nothing, just dust and shadows. But I couldn't shake the feeling that if I reached down far enough, something would grab me. I turned on the lights, slept with them on all night. The third night, I turned off my phone completely before bed. It didn't help. At exactly 12:01 a.m., I heard the ring. Even though the phone was off, it rang once, twice, 3 times, then stopped. Then a whisper from underneath the bed. "It's dark down here." I screamed. I jumped out of bed, turned on every light in the house, and refused to go back in my room for the rest of the night. Mom found me curled on the living room couch the next morning. She didn't ask questions. She didn't have to. She just sat beside me, rubbed my back, and said softly, "It's not over yet, is it?" I shook my head. That morning, I checked the phone logs. No record of the calls, not even as Mr. Blocked. They didn't exist. But I remembered every word. Hannah believed me like always. We met at the cafe near school after class, and I told her everything. She stirred her tea slowly, thinking. "She said she was cold," Hannah repeated. that she was under the bed. I nodded. But we already said goodbye. You helped her move on, so if that wasn't Lynn, she trailed off. I said the thing neither of us wanted to say. Then maybe it's something else. Something pretending to be her. Hannah nodded grimly. And if it's using her voice, it knows you'll listen. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed up in the living room with every light on. But I kept the door to my bedroom cracked just enough to hear if anything happened. At midnight, I heard movement. The creak of wood. A whisper of fabric shifting. Then the sound of a paper being dragged across the floor. I crept toward the door. Inside my room, all the lights were off. Even the small lamp I always left on had somehow died. I took a deep breath and stepped in. The air was freezing. My breath came out in fog. And then I saw it. A folded piece of paper placed neatly at the foot of my bed. I picked it up. It was another lotus, but not like the one Lynn had left me. This one was darker edges, burnt paper blackened at the tips. Inside, a message scrawled in red ink. You forgot someone. I backed out of the room and slammed the door. What did that mean? Forgot someone. There was only Lynn. Wasn't there? The next day I went back to the attic. Something about that message wouldn't leave me alone. You forgot someone. I dug through the baby boxes again, this time more frantically. I pulled out every record, every picture, every scrap of memory. Then I found it. A medical envelope I hadn't noticed before. It was thin, tucked inside the back of a baby book. It contained 2 ultrasound prints. The first was the one I'd seen before, twin shapes, curled close, almost overlapping. But the second, there were 3 shadows. 3, not 2, triplets. I stumbled back, the envelope shaking in my hands. Why had no one ever mentioned this? I raced to my mom, the envelope clutched to my chest. She stared at the print for a long time. Her hands trembled. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear to you, no one told me. Tears filled her eyes. They only ever mentioned 2. They said the other one might have been a shadow, a medical error. They never followed up. But what if it wasn't an error, I asked. What if Lynn wasn't the only one we forgot? That night, I stood in front of the mirror again. Who are you? I whispered. You're not Lynn. You're someone else. No answer. Then my phone lit up. Unknown number. I answered. I know you're not her. Silence. Then static. Then a voice. Deeper than before. Less childlike. You forgot me first. I felt sick. Who are you? The reply chilled me to the bone. The one who never had a name. Then the line went dead. I sat on my bed, frozen. The paper lotus still sat on the floor, its burnt edges crumbling slightly now. I picked it up carefully. On the underside, a second message had appeared. Give me what you gave her. The forgotten one. A third sister. A soul left unnamed, unacknowledged. And now she was cold. Alone. Under the bed. I didn't know what she wanted. A name, a cradle, a flower, a memory. How do you comfort a spirit whose very existence was erased? I sat down that night with a blank sheet of paper and did something I had never done before. I wrote a name, a new one. A name not from memory but from the heart. Something simple, beautiful. Lanha and orchid, summer, peace. I folded the paper gently, just as I had done with Lynn's lotus. When it was finished, I placed it beneath the bed and whispered, I'm sorry. The room held its breath. Then I heard a soft sound, breathing, a tiny sigh. Then silence, then warmth. I slept in my bed that night for the first time in a week. No calls, no whispers, only stillness, only peace, only the quiet weight of names finally spoken. The imaginary friend from kindergarten. My best friend said I used to talk to a girl who looked just like me, but I don't remember. A few days passed since I named the forgotten twin, Lanha N. The phone call stopped. The mirror no longer fogged. I slept through the night without waking to whispers or icy drafts under my bed. It felt like the house had exhaled. Mom smiled more. Hannah and I walked to school laughing again. Everything around me was lighter, like the air had cleared of something heavy. But sometimes peace doesn't mean closure. It only means calm before another memory stirs. We were sitting on the floor of Hannah's bedroom going through old photo albums. Her mom had asked her to help clean the attic, and she'd found a stack of pictures from our preschool days. Look at this one, she laughed, holding up a picture of us in matching plastic crowns holding juice boxes. I giggled. I remember those crowns. We refused to take them off for a whole week. Hannah nodded, flipping the page. You were always in your own little world back then. I leaned over. What do you mean? Well, you talk to yourself a lot. I raised an eyebrow. Every kid does that. Yeah, but you had conversations. Like, long ones. And not in gibberish. You used to sit under the big tree during recess and talk to someone. I frowned. I don't remember that. She paused. You had an imaginary friend. You told me her name was Lynn, that she looked like you, only her hair was longer, and she wore white. My chest tightened. I stared at Hannah. You remember that? Of course I do. I thought it was just a kid thing. Then when you told me about your twin a few weeks ago, she trailed off. But I never remembered any of that. Hannah tilted her head. I always figured it was just your imagination. But now, I didn't answer. I couldn't. That night I dug out an old cardboard box from the back of my closet. It was filled with childhood junk coloring books, sticker albums, dull crayons, a few dolls missing limbs. At the bottom was a tattered red notebook labeled Kindergarten Journal in shaky 5-year-old handwriting. I flipped through the pages. Most were scribbles and badly drawn cats. But then I found it. A page covered in loops and curls and flowers. At the top, in all caps, me and Lynn. I stared at the picture. 2 girls holding hands. Same face. Same smile. One wearing blue, one in white. Beneath the drawing, a sentence scrawled in bright pink crayon. Lynn said she can only come when I'm quiet. My hand shook slightly as I held the page. I hadn't remembered this. Not at all. But 5-year-old me had known her, had talked to her, played with her, even drawn her like she was a real person. No, like a sister. And the strangest part, I never told anyone, not Mom, not Dad. Only Hannah remembered. And only now was I remembering through her. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling. The lotus sat beside me, faintly glowing. Lynn hadn't just started appearing recently. She'd been there my whole life, only I had forgotten. Or maybe I'd been made to forget. The next morning, I took the journal to my mom. She sat on the couch, flipping through the pages slowly. Her hands trembled. I remember you used to sit by the window and talk to someone, she whispered. I thought it was cute. Sweet. You never asked me who. You were little. I figured it was a pretend friend. I tapped the drawing. I said her name was Lynn. Mom's lips pressed together. She looked like she might cry again. She was trying to reach you, I said softly. Even back then. And I think I was listening. But something made me forget. Why now, Mom murmured. Why is it all coming back? I don't know. But I was going to find out. Later that day, Hannah called me. Come over, she said, urgency in her voice. I found something else. I ran to her house. She met me at the door holding a dusty yellow scrapbook. I found this at the bottom of the attic box, she said. It's my mom's journal from when we were in preschool. She used to help out in the classroom. She opened the book to a marked page, dated March 8, 2012, written in blue ink. Mai still talks to her imaginary twin during nap time. Today she gave her half of her cookie. She says Lynn likes the crunchy part. I felt my throat close. She wrote about it, I whispered. Hannah nodded. There's more. She flipped the page. March 15. Mai got upset when we asked her to play group games. Said Lynn wanted to stay in the corner. Said Lynn doesn't like loud noises. March 19. You're one of fun. Mai said Lynn is sad, that she doesn't want to go back in the dark. I couldn't breathe. Tears welled in my eyes. She was with me, I whispered, all that time, and I left her. You were 5, Hannah said softly. You didn't know. But she did. That night I sat in front of the mirror again. The crack in the glass was still there, faint but visible. The lotus sat beside me. I remembered, I whispered. I remembered everything. The mirror fogged. A soft glow formed. And then her face. She looked older now, almost like me. Her hair still long, her dress still white, but her eyes were different, wiser, sadder. You were there, I said, since the beginning. She didn't speak. She just nodded. Why did I forget? Her voice came faint but clear. Because you were told to. My breath caught. By who? The mirror rippled, then cracked again. A second face appeared. Not Lynn's, not mine, but another girl. Similar, but darker. Eyes like mirrors, mouth curled slightly. And then the voice from the phone. You forgot me first. Lan, the one without a name, until now. They stood side by side, staring at me from inside the glass. Sisters, twins, triplets, all of us. I whispered, what do you want? And they both answered together. To be remembered. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I stayed up creating 2 new memory boxes. One for Lynn, one for Lan. Inside each, a photo, a note, a small toy, a paper lotus, and a bracelet like the one I once wore. I wrote their names in gold ink. I whispered them 3 times each. Lin Ha An, Lan Ha En. And then I placed both boxes under the big tree in our backyard, the one from kindergarten recess. I sat beside them in silence, listening, waiting. And just before dawn, I heard it. 2 laughs, one light, one low, fading into the morning. The nameless grave. She finds an old cemetery, and among the weathered stones, a tiny grave marked faintly, Twins, 2008. I had remembered them. Both of them. Lynn, the twin I was told about, and Lan, the shadow I was never meant to know. Since naming them both, the dreams had changed. There were no longer whispers from under the bed or paper lotuses folded in the dark. Now the dreams were of water, still ponds, old stone paths, clouds reflected in ripples. They were peaceful, but always somewhere in the distance was a single stone gate, a path leading beyond it, and behind the gate a feeling of something unfinished. I asked Mom if she remembered where Lynn was buried. She hesitated at first. It wasn't really a burial, she said, rubbing her hands together as if warming a cold memory. She was too small. They said it was handled by the hospital, that there was a special place for babies who didn't survive. Did you ever visit it? No, she said softly. They never told us where. I didn't ask. I couldn't. She looked up at me, guilt in her eyes. I should have. I know that now. I nodded. It's okay. I think I'm meant to find it now. With Hannah's help, I spent a week searching. We asked around. Hospitals, archives, local funeral homes. Most had no records, or they were vague, marked infant remains handled off-site or transferred to charitable services. It was frustrating, heart-wrenching, but I kept going. Then one elderly clerk at a city records office remembered something. A woman with gentle eyes and a cardigan that looked older than me. There was a burial site just outside town, she said. It was used up until 2010, mostly for unclaimed or unnamed children. A lot of hospitals transferred there. She scribbled the name of a cemetery, Holak Rest Garden. Half the graves there aren't even marked with names, she added, but there might be something. Hannah drove me out on a cloudy Saturday afternoon. The road to the cemetery wound past old rice fields, forests of bamboo, and houses that looked like they hadn't seen a paintbrush in 20 years. The gate was rusted and bent at one corner. No caretakers, just the quiet hum of cicadas and the creak of tree limbs above. We stepped inside. The grass was overgrown, swallowing most of the markers. Some had names, some didn't. Some were just stones, tilted and moss-covered. It was like a place the world had forgotten. We walked row by row, careful not to step on the small mounds. Some markers read child, 2004, others just baby girl. A few said nothing at all. Then I saw it, tucked in the far corner of the cemetery beneath a leaning frangipani tree. A tiny square of stone, barely knee-height. The words were almost erased by time and weather, but I knelt, brushed the dirt aside, and read it aloud. Songsin, 2008, twins, was an 8. That was the year I was born. And they were too. My chest tightened. There's no name, Hannah said softly, kneeling beside me. I nodded. Just a category, not a person. But it's them, isn't it? I think so. I stared at the stone, tracing the letters with my fingers. Lynn had a name. Lan didn't. And here they were together, unnamed. Left behind. I returned the next day with Mom. She broke down the moment she saw the stone. Dropped to her knees, whispered things I couldn't hear. Held her arms out like trying to cradle something that had long vanished. I didn't know, she sobbed. I didn't know they were left like this. I stood behind her, my hand on her shoulder. We know now, I said, and we can fix it. That night I wrote both their names on handmade plaques. I used the gold ink again, the one that shimmered like candlelight. Lin Ha An, light, summer, peace. Lan Ha An, orchid, summer, peace. Twins, sisters, daughters. Names finally spoken. Hannah came with me the next day to place them on the grave. We cleaned the dirt away, polished the old stone, and left 2 jasmine flowers in front of the new names. No longer anonymous, no longer forgotten. I lit 2 small candles and whispered their names 3 times each. Lin, Lan. The wind picked up gently, not harsh but soft, like a sigh of relief, like a breath held for years finally exhaled. That night I dreamed again. But it wasn't a nightmare. I stood in a field of tall grass, the sun setting behind distant hills. There was no sound, no birds, no voices, just golden light. And then I saw them, Lin and Lan, walking toward me hand in hand. Their dresses billowed, their hair caught the light, their eyes sparkled, not with sorrow, but with joy. They stopped in front of me. Lan stepped forward first, her voice the same soft tone I had once heard through the phone. Thank you for finding us. Lin nodded, reaching out and touching my hand. No more cold, no more dark. Are you going now? I asked. They looked at each other, then back at me. We were never meant to stay. I felt tears sting my eyes. But I'll miss you. You won't forget us now, Lin said gently. Lan smiled. And we'll never forget you. They turned to leave, then paused. Lin looked back one last time. Say our names again. So I did. Lin Ha-en, Lin Ha-en. The dream faded, but their names echoed in the wind as I woke. In the days that followed, the air around the house changed. Even Mom said it felt lighter. She began leaving incense in front of a photo we printed together, 2 paper cranes, one white, one purple placed beside it. A tiny shrine, a tiny piece. At school, I stopped jumping at shadows. I stopped sleeping with the light on, but the mirror remained cracked. And I left it that way. A reminder of the truth, of what had been hidden, and what had been found. One afternoon, Hannah and I sat on the swings behind school. She kicked gently at the dirt. You think they're gone for good? I thought for a moment. No, but I don't think they're stuck anymore. She nodded. Good. Then do you still hear them? I smiled. Only when I need them. A week later, a letter arrived. No stamp, no return address. Inside, a small photo. A black and white print. An ultrasound. Not from a hospital, but a photocopy of an old record. The one I had seen before. 3 shapes, 3 lights, and scribbled below in fading ink. All 3 strong, all 3 beating. Attached was a note. Handwritten, simple. No signature. Just a ray or wasn't around. She was never forgotten, just hidden. Thank you for remembering her. I stared at the letter for a long time, then placed it inside the baby journal. 3 bookmarks now marked 3 pages. 3 drawings. Our friend around 3 names. Some nights when the moon is low and the wind is still, I swear I hear laughter. Not in my head, not in a dream, but in the house, somewhere between the walls. Light, free, whole. I don't call out. I just listen, because I know who they are now, and they know who I am. Borrowed flesh at midnight. In a sleepwalking trance, she draws ancient symbols on the walls and calls out her own name. It began 3 nights after I received the letter. The one with the ultrasound and the note that said she was never forgotten, just hidden. I hadn't told anyone about it yet. Not Mom, not Hannah. I wasn't sure I could explain how it felt to read that someone somewhere had remembered Lon all along, but kept her a secret. I kept the letter under my pillow. That night I went to bed with the window open. Summer wind drifted in, carrying the scent of white flowers blooming along the fence. I remember hearing cicadas, the soft buzz of the ceiling fan, the creak of the house settling into silence. And then I remember nothing, except waking up on the floor. At first I thought I'd fallen out of bed, but then I saw the chalk. A thick white stick in my right hand, now smudged and almost gone. I sat up slowly. The air was heavy, still. The kind of stillness that fills a room only after something else has moved through it. I turned and saw the wall. Symbols. Not words, not letters. Symbols. Spirals, loops, eyes, circles within circles, drawn from floor to ceiling, filling every inch of the far wall of my bedroom. My breath caught in my throat. I dropped the chalk. What is this? My hands were shaking. I backed away, heart hammering, trying to understand what I was looking at. Then I heard it, a whisper, from inside me. You called me. The next morning I tried to convince myself it had been sleepwalking. A strange episode, probably brought on by stress, or maybe something I ate. I told myself maybe I'd seen those symbols in a movie or book. Maybe I just copied them unconsciously. But then I checked my phone. There was a video, 5 minutes long. I don't remember recording it. I don't remember even touching my phone. I pressed play. It was filmed in the dark. Night mode. The angle was shaky, pointed at the wall. I could see my hand moving across the surface drawing. The chalk moved too fast, too precisely. And then I saw my face, expressionless, blank, but my lips were moving, whispering. I turned up the volume. My ha-en, I said in the video. My ha-en, my ha-en, over and over. My own name, chanted like an incantation. I showed Hannah the next day. Her face went pale. You were possessed. I don't know, I said. Maybe it was just a trance. But that's not just sleepwalking, Mai. You were writing something, speaking your own name like it wasn't yours. She was right. It didn't feel like me. It felt like someone borrowing my skin. We researched the symbols. Old ones. Some appeared in Southeast Asian temple carvings, protective knots, binding spells. Others resembled ancient Vietnamese Chu-Nom glyphs, characters long since forgotten. Words for shadow, soul gate. One symbol kept repeating in a circle, an open eye with a line through it. We couldn't find a perfect match, but Hannah guessed its meaning first. It's for identity, she said, pointing to the loops. This whole thing, it's about you. Or about who I think I am. The next night I didn't sleep. I set up a camera. 3 actually, one on my desk, one facing the mirror, one above my bed. At midnight I sat awake, lotus in hand, trying not to blink. But then, I must have, because I remember nothing between 12:17 and 12:42. And when I woke I was no longer in bed. I was standing, in the corner, chalk in hand, a new symbol drawn. This one different from the others. Not circular, but a name, written perfectly across the top of the wall in calligraphy I couldn't reproduce if I tried. And not yet named. And beneath it a whisper recorded on all 3 cameras at once. You called her, but did you call yourself? That morning I told Mom everything. All of it. The symbols, the trance, the video, the second name. She didn't flinch. She just sat down beside me and pulled a box from the top of her closet I'd never seen before. Inside was a small red cloth bundle. She unwrapped it carefully and handed me a tiny silver bell. It was meant for you, she said. Before you were born, I had 2 made, one for your twin and one for you. I turned the bell in my hand. It was smooth carved with delicate lotus petals. It was supposed to be sewn into your blanket, a sound to keep your soul safe. What happened to the other one? Mom's face darkened. It disappeared. The hospital never returned it. I thought maybe it was buried with Lynn. And now, I think maybe it wasn't Lynn they took it from. That night I tied the bell to my wrist. I sat on my bed, lotus in front of me, chalk on the floor, and whispered softly, Lin ha-en, Lin ha-en, me ha-en. Then louder, my ha-en. The air grew cold. The mirror clouded. The lotus glowed faintly. And then my own voice echoed back. Who are you calling? The lights flickered, and I heard something move. Not outside, inside me. The trance took me before I could resist. I watched it later on camera. My eyes rolled back, my mouth opened, and then I whispered again. Not a name, a question. The part of me I had never claimed. The part between my sisters. When I woke the next morning, the final wall was finished. 4 symbols. One for Lynn, one for Lan, one for me, and one I'd never seen before. The shape of a door, not a real one, but a passage, drawn in chalk and bound in golden ink from a pen I never owned. A message below. To name yourself is to unlock the final gate. That day I didn't go to school. I walked to the cemetery instead, stood in front of the twin grave, placed the lotus between the name plaques, and whispered. I call myself now, not because I had forgotten, but because I had never truly claimed it. Never said it without shame, never understood the weight of a name passed down. So I spoke it aloud without fear. My ha'an. The wind rose. The tree behind me shivered. And for a moment I felt the weight of two hands on my shoulders. One warm, one cool, one from a sister I knew, and one from a sister I had only just begun to meet. That night I stood before the chalk door. I touched its center. It felt warm, alive. I whispered my name once more. My ha'an. The mirror cracked fully, then healed. The door on the wall glowed, then vanished. And I knew it was open now, not to death, not to ghosts, but to truth, to identity, to me. Do not enter the shed behind the school. Strange things begin happening at the old shed where she always dreams she's trapped inside. For the past 2 weeks, things had been quieter. I was sleeping through the night. The chalk symbols on my wall had faded naturally as if their purpose had been fulfilled. My sister's linen land no longer visited in mirrors or dreams. And for the first time in months, I felt grounded. Home. But then the dreams came back. Only this time, they weren't about them. They were about me, and a place I had never dared to look too closely at the shed behind the school. The dream was always the same. I'm inside the shed. It's pitch black. No windows. The air smells like rust and wet soil. I'm lying on the ground, curled up, unable to move. My legs feel bound. My hands numb. I try to scream, but my throat won't work. And then the knocking begins. 3 soft knocks from the outside. Then a whisper at the door. Are you in there? Always the same voice. Always mine. I woke up with my heart pounding, drenched in sweat. The clock read 3:03 a.m. I stared at the ceiling, trying to shake the image, but it clung to me. That voice at the door, my voice, calling out to myself. At school, I couldn't concentrate. Every window in the back hallway looked out toward the edge of the grounds and the storage shed that sat beyond the fence. It had always been there. Old wooden paint peeling off in strips. No one used it anymore, not since a fire years ago damaged the inside. A few teachers kept mops and chairs in there, but it was mostly abandoned. No one went near it. No one wanted to. And now I was dreaming about it every night. At lunch, I told Hannah, "You're not going near it, are you?" She said immediately, like she already knew the answer. "I wasn't planning to," I said. "But I feel like something's pulling me." Hannah leaned in, lowering her voice. "You remember back in primary school, there were rumors about that shed?" I nodded. "Someone said a girl got locked in by accident." "No," Hannah said, voice tightening. "Someone said a girl went missing, and the last time anyone saw her was near that shed." Goosebumps ran across my arms. "How come no one ever did anything?" "They said it was just gossip," she said. "But everyone knew something was weird about that place. Even the teachers don't like to talk about it." That evening after class, I stood at the back of the field just outside the rusted fence. The shed stood 30 meters away. It looked wrong, tilted slightly forward like it was leaning in to listen. Its wooden panels were warped from age and weather, and one of the window panes had been shattered and crudely covered with cardboard. Something flickered in my chest. Not fear, not curiosity. Recognition. I had been here before. That night, the dream changed. This time, I wasn't trapped inside. I was outside, looking in through the broken window, and what I saw made my blood freeze. It was me, sitting inside the shed, legs drawn to my chest, whispering the same words over and over. "Don't let her in. Don't let her in. Don't let her in." And outside the door, another me, smiling, knocking. The next day at school, I asked the janitor about the shed. He shook his head. "You students stay away from that place. Nothing in there but dust, termites, and bad memories." "Did something happen?" I asked. He looked at me for a long moment, then said once a girl got stuck in there overnight. She was found the next morning curled in a corner, eyes wide open. Never spoke again. My throat tightened. "When?" "Long time ago, before your class was even here. People stopped using the shed after that. He paused, squinting. You wouldn't happen to be the girl who draws on walls, would you? I blinked. What? I saw your chalk last week. Symbols on the back stairwell. Looked like old temple markings. I didn't draw those, I said slowly. Not there. He just nodded as if he already knew that too. That night, I broke my promise. I went to the shed. It was almost 11 p.m. The school grounds were silent, the night air thick with summer heat. I slipped past the fence easily. The weeds crunched under my shoes. I stood in front of the door, heart pounding, hand trembling on the rusted handle. The door creaked open. The smell hit me first. Dust, wood rot, something deeper, like something buried. I stepped inside. The floor groaned under my weight. The inside was exactly like the dream, dark, narrow and small. A few broken desks, cobwebs, water stains on the ceiling. Then I saw it. The wall, symbols, carved, not drawn. The same ones from my room, but deeper, older, etched into the wood like someone had done it with a knife over and over again. And in the center, a name. I backed up, heart racing. The temperature dropped sharply. I turned to leave. The door slammed shut behind me, plunging me into darkness. I screamed. I threw my shoulder against the door, but it wouldn't budge. I fumbled for my phone, turned on the flashlight. The room looked smaller now, the walls closer, the air pressing in. Then I heard it, a soft knock. Not from the door, but under the floorboards. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there? I whispered. Another knock. Then a whisper from beneath my feet. She's not gone. The light flickered, and then from the far corner I saw her. A girl, no older than me, same face, same eyes, but her skin was too pale, her mouth too wide, her hair too black. She stepped forward barefoot, her hands outstretched. I waited, she said, and you never came. Lan, I whispered. She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed to the wall behind her. There, scratched in blood-red chalk, were three names. Lin, Lan, Mai. And beneath them, one still borrowed. My heart stopped. What does that mean? I asked. She smiled and said, not all of you is yours. Suddenly, I was back in the dream. But this time I was watching from the ceiling. Two versions of me. One inside screaming, one outside smiling. Then the outside version lifted her hand and peeled off her skin like paper, revealing a hollow body with three faces flickering behind the eyes. I jolted awake on the ground outside the shed. It was morning. My phone was dead. The door behind me was wide open, and on the grass beside me, a single note, in the handwriting of a child. You were never alone in there. Mother's journal, I heard crying from my belly even after the doctor said only one survived. After the night at the shed, something changed, not just around me, inside me. I started waking up with bruises on my arms, faint and finger-shaped. My reflection would lag a half second behind in the mirror. Sometimes when I blinked, I'd see three shadows instead of one. I knew Lan had shown me something real, something that meant more than memory, more than ghosts. And the phrase written in blood-red chalk still haunted me, one still borrowed. I stayed home the next few days claiming a fever. Mom didn't question it, not this time. She just let me be, bringing me soup and cold towels, occasionally sitting beside me without saying a word. Until one afternoon when I caught her standing in the doorway with a small box in her hands. She hesitated, then stepped in, set it on my bed and whispered, "You're old enough now." I sat up slowly. What is it? Things I didn't know how to explain. Her eyes were red. She didn't stay. She just left the box and me in silence. The box was plain. No lock, no decoration. Just a shoebox, aged by time, wrapped in an old scarf that smelled faintly of lavender and dust. Inside were photographs, ultrasound prints, a tiny knit sock yellowed with age, a baby bracelet, a folded hospital wrist tag, and at the bottom, a red leather notebook. Small, slim, the spine cracked. I opened it. The first page read, Journal of Nguyen Tilanchi, started May 2008. My mother's handwriting. The entries started off joyful. Pages of pregnancy notes, cravings, ultrasound appointments, names they were considering. Then in June, Doctor says it's twins. 2 heartbeats, 2 lives, 2 miracles. I cried all the way home. A few pages later, I dreamt I was holding 2 babies. Both had my nose, but one kept staring into my eyes like she'd lived 100 years before me. The pages gradually grew messier, ink blotted, handwriting rushed. Then came July. One baby is growing faster than the other. Doctor said not to panic, but I can feel it. One is pulling away. Sometimes I wake up at night and only feel 1 heartbeat. Lan keeps kicking stronger than Lynn. I think she's scared or angry. Then August or Nentfuarcerni. They said only 1 survived. But when I lay there after the surgery, I swear I heard crying. Not from the delivery room, from inside me. My belly was flat, empty, but I heard it. The nurse looked at me like I was mad. She turned the monitor off, said it was just after-birth movement, but I heard her, crying like she was lost. I screamed. They sedated me. I never told anyone after that. I flipped to the last few entries. October 2008. I had been home from the hospital for weeks. Mai doesn't cry at night. She laughs even when she's alone in the crib, like someone is playing with her. Sometimes I hear 2 giggles. I asked Lynn's name to be placed in the family book, but no one could tell me where she was buried. The hospital gave me a card and a number that no longer exists. Lan was never listed anywhere. Then in the smallest handwriting I'd ever seen, they said I only gave birth to 1, but I remember 3 names in the dark. I closed the journal and sat there frozen. 3 names. I had always believed I was one of a pair, but the truth was clearer now. There were 3 heartbeats, 3 spirits, 3 lives, and only 1 body that made it out. But the other 2 hadn't gone far. That evening, I found Mom sitting on the porch holding a cup of tea that had gone cold. She didn't look up when I sat beside her, but she spoke first. I kept it hidden because I didn't want you to be afraid of yourself. I didn't respond. She continued. The doctor called it vanishing twin syndrome. They said it was common, that sometimes one twin just stops growing. The stronger one absorbs the other. She took a deep breath, but I felt her. After, crying, moving, even after the monitors were silent. I believe you, I whispered. She turned to look at me, her eyes filled with something more than sorrow. Guilt, relief, fear. I think part of her stayed with you. I nodded. Not just her, I said softly. Lan, too. That night I slept with the journal beside me. I dreamt of a hallway lined with mirrors. Each mirror showed a different version of me smiling, crying, screaming, staring blankly. Some were older, some were children, but all of them had my eyes. Until I reached the end of the hallway, where one mirror stood cracked, and inside it not a reflection, but a girl, same age, same face, but different. She stepped forward and pressed her palm against the glass. You are the house, she said, and we are still inside. I woke with the echo of her voice in my ears, and a new word written across my ceiling in chalk. Endro, peace, completion. It had always been part of all 3 names. Lin Ha-an, Len Ha-an, Mai Ha-an. But I had never understood the meaning until now. We weren't just 3 lost pieces. We were one whole, scattered, broken, forgotten. Now remembered. I went back to the cemetery. Kneeling before the twin grave, I placed the baby bracelet from the box onto the stone and whispered, I found her. Then turned my head to the side and added, I found me. Later that week, I took Mom to the back of the school, to the shed. I expected her to flinch to stop to back away, but she walked right up to the door, and when she stepped inside, she gasped, I know this place. My heart skipped. What? I came here once, years ago, when you were in kindergarten. I had a dream that you were hiding here, crying. She stepped further in and laid her hand on the wooden wall where the carvings still faintly remain. She closed her eyes. I dreamed I found 3 of you. That night I stood in my room, candlelit lotus in hand. I read from the journal aloud. Then I tore a page out, the one that said, they said I only gave birth to 1, but I remember 3 names in the dark. I folded it into a paper lotus and left it floating in a bowl of water by my window. The breeze lifted it gently. The flame didn't flicker. I whispered once more, Lin Ha-en, Len Ha-en, Mai Ha-en. And for the first time, the wind didn't answer. Because peace doesn't always mean presence. Sometimes it means you've finally been heard. No longer a dream. The voice is louder now. The laughter behind her, even while she's awake. It started during the day. That was when I knew something had changed. Before everything strange, the whispers, the shadows, the mirror tricks happened in the dark in my dreams or at night when the world turned quiet. Now it was in the daylight at school, in my room, even on the street. And it was no longer subtle. It was laughter. Sharp, sudden, echoing behind me like someone standing at my shoulder. Only no one was there. At first I thought I was imagining it. Stress, sleep deprivation. Maybe my mind, overloaded by months of ghosts and lost names, was just cracking. Until Hannah heard it too. We were in the library sitting side by side, our notebooks open. I was sketching in the margins, absent-mindedly repeating the loops from the chalk symbols. Hannah was scribbling formulas when she froze. "Did you hear that?" I looked up. "Hear what?" She tilted her head. "That laugh, it sounded like you." I blinked. I didn't laugh. Then, she turned slowly to scan the rows of shelves. "Who did?" No one else was near us. And that wasn't the last time. The next time it happened, I was brushing my teeth. Middle of the morning. Sun streaming through the window. Ordinary. Safe. I leaned over the sink to spit and heard it. "Stop doing that. You look like Mom." I dropped the toothbrush. The voice had been behind my ear. Right behind. I spun around, heart racing. No one. But the mirror caught something, the faintest ripple of a shadow moving past like heat over pavement. I backed away slowly. My reflection stared back, but for a second, I swear, the smile on its lips was wider than mine. The voice became daily, sometimes words, sometimes just breathy giggles that followed me down hallways or curled into the corners of my room. Once while I was in the shower, I heard singing an off-key hum of a lullaby I didn't recognize. It was no longer something I could brush off. It was with me, everywhere, even when I was awake, even with others nearby. I recorded everything. I set up my phone in my room, left it running for hours. I wore earbuds with a voice recorder at school. I even kept a notebook in my pocket for jotting down what I heard, when and what was happening. Here's what I learned. It didn't happen in front of mirrors anymore. It followed emotions stronger when I was stressed, tired, or sad. It mimicked me. Same tone, same laugh, but always slightly off. Like someone pretending to be me, but not quite getting it right. One night I confronted it. I sat on my bed, lights on, phone recording, and said aloud, "Lon, if it's you, stop hiding." Silence. Then a soft giggle from the closet. I stood slowly, turned toward the sound, every muscle in my body tense. "Lynn," I tried. Another giggle. Closer now, right behind me. I spun. No one. But on my bed lay something that hadn't been there a second ago. My baby bracelet. The one I left on the grave 2 weeks ago. I ran downstairs, bracelet clenched in my fist. Mom looked up from the kitchen table, startled. I held it out. "How did this get back here?" Her face drained of color. I don't know. You said you left it at the cemetery." "I did. Maybe someone brought it back," she offered weakly. "The groundskeeper." No one knew it was there. Mom didn't answer. She just took the bracelet from my hand and stared at it like it had returned from the dead, which in a way, it had. I began hearing my own voice more often than not calling to me, not whispering, just narrating, repeating things I had just said out loud seconds after I spoke them, but from the other room, or from under my bed, or behind a closed door. Once I said aloud, "I'm going to sleep now," while texting Hannah. From the hallway, my own voice repeated it in a flat tone. "I'm going to sleep now." Like an echo, but not mine. Hannah started noticing changes too. "You space out more," she told me. "Like, you leave your body sometimes." "What do you mean?" "Like you're here, but not all of you is. Like, something else is wearing your skin while you're still inside." She hesitated. "And sometimes your voice, it doesn't sound like yours." That night I reviewed one of my recordings. It was taken during lunch when Hannah and I were laughing over a joke. In the middle of the clip, there's a loud spike audio distortion. Then layered under our laughter, a third laugh. My laugh. But warped, lower, slower. As if something was dragging it down through water. I played it 5 times. Each time it made my stomach twist. Because I hadn't laughed that way. And neither had Hannah. I went back to the red notebook, my mother's journal. I reread every line, every fear, every confession. And then I found a page I hadn't noticed before. Folded in half, nearly stuck to the back cover. Unlabeled. Unread. I peeled it open carefully. In rushed handwriting, Mom had written, "Some nights I feel her crawling through the house. Not as a ghost, as a memory given shape. She doesn't want to be born. She wants to become. I think she's trying to wear like a coat." I dropped the journal. The room tilted. It felt like the floor swayed beneath me. Something was trying to wear me. Not to haunt, not to visit, but to inhabit. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the center of my room, candles lit, lotus in hand, just like before. But this time I wasn't calling them. I was calling myself. I am Maiha, and I whispered over and over. I am whole, I am enough. I am not an empty vessel. But the moment I stopped, laughter, right behind me, soft at first, then rising, giddy, sharp, breathless. I turned slowly. There, sitting on my bed legs, swinging like a child, was me. But not me. She smiled, tilted her head, and whispered, "You gave me your name." I couldn't speak, couldn't move. She hopped off the bed barefoot on the floorboards and stepped closer. "You lit candles. You opened doors. You whispered our names like spells." She leaned in. "And you forgot. Names are keys, and keys open more than just memories." She reached for my face. I backed away, slammed into the desk behind me. "You're not me," I whispered. Her smile widened. "No, but I could be." The lights flickered. The candles blew out all at once, and then she was gone, leaving only a lotus petal floating in the bowl of water. It turned black at the edges. I called Hannah, told her everything. Every word the mirror girl said, every echo, every trace of laughter. She didn't ask if I was sure. She just said, "Then we need to close the door." "What door?" "The one you opened the night you wrote all 3 names." The problem was, I had no idea how to close it. But the girl in the mirror did. And now she was waiting, wearing my smile, twin blood pact. She decides to perform the spirit summoning ritual on her 17th birthday. Blood drips onto the mirror. The day of my 17th birthday began in silence. No balloons, no friends, no cake. I had told Mom not to plan anything. She didn't ask why. Maybe deep down she remembered what always happened on this day. The strange dreams, the whispers, the flickering lights. Or maybe she was just scared of what I might do if she did celebrate. Because this year I wasn't pretending anymore. This year I would finish it. I would call them, all of them. And I would find out what still lived inside me. I spent the morning gathering what I needed. Salt, red thread, lotus petals, a shard of chalk I'd saved from the symbols, and the mirror, the small circular one that had cracked and healed during my earlier rituals. But the most important item was blood. Meaning, the ritual I found was buried deep in a book Hannah helped me borrow from a locked cabinet in the school library. We weren't supposed to access it. The book had no author, no title, just pages written by hand in multiple languages: Vietnamese, Han-Nom, Khmer, Sanskrit. Most of it was impossible to translate. But one page stood out. Hannah had whispered when she found it, "It's a twin pack. Jiao Wuk Mao Song Sin." It was a rite performed when one twin had passed before birth, but their spirit lingered. The ritual was meant to either merge the soul with the living sibling or cast it out forever, depending on what the heart chose. I prepared everything carefully. By dusk, the items were in place. I waited until midnight, the hour between lives, as the book called it. My room was lit only by 3 candles. Each represented one of us, Lin Lan Mei. The mirror lay in front of me, resting on a shallow bowl of water, lotus petals floating beneath the surface. A needle sat beside it. Hannah had texted me earlier. "Are you sure about this?" I replied only, "I need to know who I am." At exactly 12:00 a.m., I pricked my finger. Blood welled hot and dark, and I let it fall. 1 drop, 2, 3. Each landed on the mirror's surface with a soft sound dissolving into tiny red clouds in the water. Then I whispered the words written in the margin of the ritual. I call from flesh to flesh. I call from name to name. I call from blood to blood. Lin Ha'an, Lan Ha'an, Mai Ha'an. If I am the house, come home. The candles flickered violently. The air grew heavy. My ears popped like pressure was shifting. And then, silence. Not the peaceful kind, the watching kind. The mirror darkened, not from soot, from shadow, as if a storm had been trapped inside the glass. Then a face appeared, mine, but not exactly. Her eyes were wider, lips thinner, skin paler, and she was smiling, but not with joy, with hunger. She leaned forward until her forehead pressed against the inside of the mirror, then whispered, "You opened the door, sister." The candles blew out. I scrambled backward, heart racing, and nearly tipped the bowl of water. The room plunged into near darkness, save for the soft glow of the mirror, which now pulsed faintly red with each of my heartbeats. Then behind me a voice, "Let me wear you just for one night, just until the morning. We'll be one again." I turned slowly. She was there, standing beside my bed. My exact height, my exact face, but wearing a tattered version of my school uniform stained with something brown and dried. Her bare feet were muddy, her arms were too thin, her smile too wide. "You've always made room for us. Why stop now?" she asked. I couldn't move. I could barely breathe. Then she stepped closer and whispered, "You invited us with blood. Now the pact is sealed." The ritual book hadn't mentioned what happened after the summoning, but something inside me knew I had to choose. Merge or banish. If I did nothing, she would choose for me. I lunged for the chalk shard, drew a spiral across my chest, one of the protection symbols from the wall. The mirror flared. She shrieked, not in pain but in anger. "You don't want to be alone, Mai. We are you. We've always been. You'll forget where your skin ends and mine begins. Isn't that better? Isn't that easier?" I drew another symbol, this time on the floor between us. "Stay back," I shouted. She laughed and stepped right over it. "That only works when you don't bleed." She pointed to the blood still staining my finger. "The pact is older than chalk." The room bent, like space itself was warping. She grabbed my arm. Cold fingers, iron grip, and then memories flooded into me. Not mine, hers. Flashes of darkness, of floating, of being pressed beneath warm flesh, of hearing Mom scream, of watching me be held while she was forgotten. And the anger, so much anger, so much loneliness. "You didn't even know I existed. You didn't even miss me." "I didn't know," I screamed. She paused. The grip loosened just slightly. "But you never tried to ask." That was true, and somehow it hurt worse than anything else. I knelt on the floor, heartbreaking, tears running down my face. "You're right," I said. "I didn't try. I was too scared." Her face changed. Less rage, more sorrow. "Then don't push me away now. Let me stay, just for tonight, just to feel alive." I looked into her eyes, my eyes, and I understood the choice. If I let her in, she would taste life, breath, warmth. But I might not come back. Not fully. Maybe not ever. I took a deep breath and whispered, "You don't need my body to exist. You need a name, a place, a voice. I will give you those, but not my soul." She screamed. The mirror cracked. The water boiled, and then the candles flared back to life, blinding white. When the light faded, she was gone. The mirror lay still, water calm, but the surface no longer showed my face. It showed hers, peaceful, resting, like she was finally home, not inside me. But next to me, I sealed the ritual with salt, wrote her name on a page from Mom's journal, Lenha, and buried it under the lotus tree outside. 3 petals fell as I patted the soil. One for Lynn, one for Lan, one for me. That morning I looked into the mirror again. Only my face looked back. But in my heart I knew I wasn't alone. And for once that brought comfort. Because now we were 3, not fighting, not trapped, but remembered, recognized, balanced. 2 bodies, one soul. At last, she looks in the mirror and sees two people. One is herself, the other is the baby that was never fully born. It should have ended there. The ritual, the salt, the light, land's spirit calmed her image, peaceful in the water. Her name written, buried, honored. I should have woken up the next day and felt free. But instead, I woke up feeling split, as though something inside me had unraveled. Like the final knot holding everything together had finally come undone, revealing not one soul, but two. At first, it was subtle. When I reached for the doorknob in the morning, my hand paused like someone else had moved it. When I brushed my hair, it was as though I was watching someone else in the mirror do it first, then copying the movement half a second later. But the real change came when I began speaking out loud and hearing my own voice answer, not in my head, from beside me. 3 days after the ritual, I stood in front of the mirror brushing my teeth. A normal morning, ordinary, nothing strange, until I saw her. Not behind me, not beside me, but inside the mirror. And not like before, no ghost, no doppelganger, no flickering apparition. Just a girl, small, barefoot, hair long and black like mine, but younger. Maybe 6 years old, maybe never born at all. She stood beside my reflection looking up at me, not smiling, not angry, just present. I froze, toothbrush halfway to my mouth. My eyes met hers, and she tilted her head slightly. Not a threat, just a question. Like, do you see me now? I slowly nodded, and she did too, then disappeared. Not with a blink, not with a flicker, but as if she had simply walked out of the mirror's frame. That night I told Mom everything. She didn't question it, not anymore. She listened quietly, face-pale fingers wrapped tightly around her tea mug. When I finished, she said softly, maybe the ritual didn't release her. Maybe it let her settle. Not to leave, but to stay in the way she was always meant to. Not haunting you, not hurting you, just finishing what never began. I looked at her. Do you think I'm still me? She met my eyes. I think you're more you now than ever before. At school, I started noticing moments that didn't belong to me. I'd finish a sentence and wonder, was that really what I meant to say? I'd find a drawing in my notebook I didn't remember starting, always of a girl with wide eyes and open hands. Hannah watched me carefully. You okay? She asked one day. I hesitated, then said, I think I'm not the only one in here anymore. She nodded slowly. Does she talk to you? Not always, but you feel her. I looked down at my hands. I feel her when I laugh too hard, when I cry too long, when I look at someone and feel emotions I know aren't mine. It wasn't possession. It wasn't horror. It was cohabitation, like a shared room in my soul. Some days I took the front seat. Other days she pressed forward, curious, alive, testing the shape of what could have been. And then came the day of the photo. We were assigned a portrait project in art class. Self-expression through self-portrait, the teacher said. Everyone groaned. I stayed silent. That night I took the photo in my room. Camera set, tripod steady, timer on. I stood in front of the mirror. Right before the shutter clicked, I felt her. The air around my skin shifted. A hand not mine brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. And when the flash went off, I knew she'd stepped forward. The photo, when developed, made everyone stop. It was just me, but also not. There was a second outline behind my shoulders, a faint shimmer, like heat in the air, shaped like a small girl standing close. Too precise to be a shadow, too clear to be imagined. Hannah whispered she came through. I nodded. I let her. Later that week, I stood before the mirror again. The same small girl appeared, this time older, maybe 12. Not smiling, but not scared either. I placed my hand against the mirror. She did the same. For a moment, the glass felt warm. And in that moment, I didn't feel haunted. I felt whole. I began writing a journal. Not for me, for her. I filled it with everything we'd missed. The stories Mom told when I was 5. The birthday party I had at 7. The time I skinned my knee and didn't cry. The first time Hannah and I met. My favorite lullaby. The smell of rain on school tiles. I wrote like I was talking to her, and sometimes I felt her write back. A curl of a drawing in the corner. A child's handwriting that said, I liked the cake at 9. I didn't have a party at 9. But the message made me laugh anyway. By my 18th birthday, we had reached an understanding. She was part of me. Not a ghost, not a shadow, not a threat, but a fragment of a soul that had never been given breath. Now finally stitched into the fabric of who I was. 2 bodies once, 1 soul now. On the night of my birthday, I stood in front of the mirror again. Not afraid, not waiting, just watching. And when she appeared now, almost my age, I smiled. So did she. I asked, "Do you miss being real?" She tilted her head thinking, then said, "I don't miss it anymore, because now I remember how it feels." And I whispered, "Do you forgive me for living?" She nodded, then said, "I chose you too." That night I dreamed for the first time in months. But it wasn't a nightmare. It was a field. Bright sun, a girl running ahead of me laughing, not trying to escape, just wanting to be seen. I ran after her, caught her hand, and we ran together. When I woke up, I went to the mirror. She was already there, waiting. And for the first time, I saw what I'd never dared to admit. We were both smiling with the same face, not layered, not split, together. That day, I told Mom I wanted to add 2 names to the family registry. Ling Ha An, Lan Ha An. She didn't hesitate. She just nodded and said, "Welcome home, my daughters." I don't hear the laughter anymore. Not like before. Now when I laugh, it's all mine. But maybe it always was. Just echoed by a girl who had waited too long to be known. Now she doesn't have to wait. She lives here. In my smile, in my tears, in the spaces between every breath I take. And I don't feel haunted. I feel whole.